Hello and welcome to the July 8th, 2025 edition of the Mr. Joe Bipolar Podcast. My name is Mr. Joe. This is my neighborhood. This is my life. But this is our podcast journey. Welcome to the Mr. Joe Bipolar Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Joe Bipolar Podcast. My name is Mr. Joe, and it is awesome to have everybody here with me today. And, of course, it's always wonderful to be out there with you as well. If I sound a little sluggish, there's a reason why. Mr. Joe is shot, man. I got to tell you. I have not been to work in quite some time, and today is the first day back at work, and I made the unfortunate mistake, everybody, of going to sleep. Well, before I went to sleep, I actually decided, you know what? You're not going to be home on a quote-unquote vacation for the next couple of weeks, so why not just splurge a little bit in terms of your eating? So I decided to bring into my bedroom a cup of milk and about 15 Chips Ahoy cookies, and I ate them. Now, what I did, unfortunately, was I also brought in my medication into my bedroom. And upon putting the first cookie in my mouth, after that, what follows is my Lactaid pill. Otherwise, forget about it. Mr. Joe would be still in the bathroom this morning. Nevertheless, also there was my nighttime dosage of Seroquel. And that's that. So about 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up. I had to use the bathroom, and I said to myself, well, something's not right here because I'm not groggy. I'm not tired. I don't want to go back to bed. And lo and behold, what's on my blanket? Which I knew. I knew at this point. It's crazy because when you're on certain medications, specifically ones that assist in the sleeping department, you're going to know when you missed your dose, okay? I knew it. I looked right into that bed, and I saw the pills there, and I said, okay, here we go. So nevertheless, I took them about 3 a.m. because I said, there's no way. My first day of, I'd rather wake up a little bit tired than just not sleep for the next 3 hours and then, walk out the door after being up since 3 a.m. And so I took my medicine, and here's my point. My point is I am up at the same time that I normally am up, but you could tell that that additional Seroquel within my system, based on the fact that I took my nighttime dose at 3 a.m., and it was very close to my morning dose. So I'm exhausted, guys, unfortunately, completely shot. But, we got to get through the day. Mr. Joe will be back on vacation August 15th. That'll be my last day, and then I'll be back on vacation till mid-September, which is awesome. Now, this week, it's crazy because I say to myself, had I have kept my surgical plans, I would have been done with work by Thursday this week. And that would have been my last day. And the next day I would have been being operated on and out for several months. And there's almost a part of me that says, oh, man, I wish I could just chill out and hang out and not have to come back to work. And, but then the final result or, the final outcome would be a tremendous amount of recovery pain, which I am not willing to deal with. With that being said, it's been a rough weekend, guys. It's evidently clear that my back is an absolute disaster. I need this surgery. I woke up today not feeling horrible, though. So it's those flip-flopping days in terms of pain where we go from 3 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. And, that's what determines whether or not my sick wackadooey brain is going to get surgery or not, rather than simply speaking to the doctors and listening to their feedback. So, nevertheless, let's get some stuff out of the way. We have a lot to talk about today. It's mrjoe.podbean.com. That is my website. It's misterjoe.podbean.com. If you want to chit-chat, you can email me at mrjoebp@yahoo.com. That's mrjoebp@yahoo.com. I haven't said this in a while, but there's a cute little donations and support button right there. If you click it, it's going to take you to another separate webpage, and you could donate any amount of money that you would like to Mr. Joe's Bipolar Podcast, even if it's a penny. Even if it's a penny. Okay, and if not, don't worry, because Mr. Joe's Bipolar Podcast will always be offered for free. If you're interested in microdosing with psilocybin mushrooms, go to soulcybin.org/MrJoeBP. Put in that same Mr. Joe BP coupon code, all capital letters MRJOEBP, at the end of your checkout in the coupon code section, and you'll get 15% off your order. If you would like to try some polka dot chocolate bars and truffles and gummies and mushrooms and all that stuff, simply visit Gas Stash, formerly known as Polka Dot. It's GASSTASH/REF/1000/1000/. Yeah, there's 4 zeros in that. I never get that part wrong, but I did that. It's okay. And by the way, I don't know if you caught that one, but Mr. Joe also just snorted. So, yeah, it's going to be quite the day. I could see it already. I have a whole bunch of new teachers that I have to get along with, a whole bunch of new students that I have to learn. It's exciting, but it's going to be interesting. Something else that's interesting, and those of you who are caught up with Mr. Joe's Bipolar Podcast and the current editions that we have, you will know that a very good friend of mine passed away not too long ago, somebody I worked with for about 7 years, and this person remained in contact with myself and my wife, because my wife and this person also worked together for several years. We became very good friends. I love the husband. This woman is no longer alive. She has unfortunately left us to go to a better place up in the sky, if that's what you believe in. And it's crazy, because very shortly after her death, my family and I, we went to an event, one in which I would have imagined she would be there, but her husband was there, and it was like crazy. We got to see him, which was nice, very emotional. And then you know what else I realized, guys? And this is the only reason why I'm bringing this up. This morning I went on Facebook, and by the way, I got to tell you, if you advertise on Facebook, I cannot begin to tell you the number of people, if you do it right, that you can get to at least look at your Facebook page and to try your, what's it called, your website, and listen to your podcast. Clearly, guys, all this ranting and raving in which Mr. Joe said, oh, I want to make a studio, and I want to have my own show, and I want to go on Sirius XM, which, by the way, they never got back to me. I want to do all these things. However, I can't, because I haven't got a dime, and I don't have enough advertising, I don't know, content out there. Well, I do now. And again, it's very simple. I think I spent $2 a day. And I'm telling you right now, within a couple of days, and again, I'm learning each ad. I think this is my 3rd run, but I think I've been running it for 3 days, and it's already got over 200 new Facebook likes. I've reached over 10,000 people. I mean, so maybe this is the way to go. Maybe this is what Mr. Joe has to do to expose the Mr. Joe Bipolar Podcast, just to get us a little more, you know, a little more popular out there, so that maybe Mr. Joe could quit one day and just do this for the rest of my life, sit in a studio that doesn't resemble something that has a steering wheel and all of those things. So, but the advertising is awesome. Nevertheless, I bring up Facebook because I went on to check that, and I quickly switched over to my, my original name, my real name, Mr. Joe's real name, that profile. And when I switched over, on my news feed, the very first news that I see is paragraphs long of this gentleman who I just saw, of my very good friend who passed away. And I believe it started off something along the lines of, I can't believe it's been a little over a month and you're not here with us anymore. And he starts to talk about the kids. And guys, I shut it down. I shut it down. That's why I'm bringing it up, so I could let you know that I shut it down. I couldn't even read it. I could not even read this man's words about his wife and about his kids. And one of the things that, why I bring this up, and we have done several episodes on this in the past, or at least we've done at least one episode, and we've spoken about it several times in terms of how worried I am that my kids are not going to have me. I know I worry. We all worry about the other end of the spectrum, so to speak. What would we do? God forbid. I don't even like saying it. I don't even like bringing it up. But God forbid, one of us lost one of our children. And I know for a fact that there are several of you out there that listen to the Mr. Joe Bipolar podcast that have lost a child. I know. I know because statistically it's just the way it is, and I also know because several of you have reached out to me in the past. Unfortunately battling mental health issues, ones that you've never even experienced that have kind of developed over the fact that, hey, you lost a kid. I can't even imagine. And that is absolutely something that has always been with Mr. Joe and has always scared the living daylights out of me. But again, I am petrified of not being here for my kids. I can't begin to tell you. There's this song, how does it go? Everyone's gonna hurt sometime. It's a song. Here's to the ones. I'm not gonna sing it. I mean, I'm gonna sound like a complete moron, okay? But nevertheless, one of my buddies had brought it up to me, and right around the time that my father had passed, and every time this damn song comes on, I kind of tear up or I cry, and it just so happens that my younger son, caught me one day listening to the song and crying. And he's just, my kids are just so beautiful in the sense where you could just see how much they love their parents. And I say this because we were at a get-together, a party, an event. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't too long ago. And music was playing. And that song came on. And obviously I had no control over the song. It's not like I could skip it or say, I can't deal with this. I'm too emotional. Throw on the next song. I want to hear Michael Jackson or whatever it is. And can't control it. So I just kind of sat there and dealt with it. And upon looking up, what do I see? I see my 8-year-old just standing there, not moving, staring at me, checking on me to make sure I wasn't crying, to make sure that I was okay. And that reminds me too, I wanted to bring something up about one of the episodes that we recently did in terms of worrying about our children's failure. I want to make something perfectly clear, because in listening back to my episode, and I did so because I just had a feeling. After I recorded, I had a feeling that some of the stuff that I said didn't sound right. And I say that because I sounded like a selfish idiot. I did. I'm not going to get into why, but here's what I want to say. And maybe this will help correct the situation and more or less help to distinguish between, what I said then and now, and what makes then wrong and this right. But here's what it comes down to, guys. There is a number one reason why, as a parent, at least from my perspective, I am concerned about my children failing. And in the last episode, it almost seemed, again, selfishly, like it was all about me. I worry about them because, A, B, C, and D will happen to me, or I'll feel like A, B, C, and D. Well, you want to know something? And thinking about it, here's what it all comes down to. None of it matters to me. There is only one reason why I care about my children failing, and that is me worrying about the way that they feel inside. That's all it's about. That's where it comes from. Whether it's based on my own experiences because I've been in a similar situation and I failed and I know what it feels like, and I know the level of disappointment that I've endured, and let's use it at bat. Striking out, big spot. Everybody's going to do it. Mr. Joe's been there. He was there 1,000 billion times in his life. Mr. Joe's one of those guys, as I got older, it was either strikeout or home run. That's really what it was all about. But what it comes down to is, again, my biggest concern is really just about my children's feelings and about what they are feeling and how they feel and whether or not they are struggling in their mind and whether or not they're upset. Those are the things that I care about. So I don't know if I conveyed that properly, but I felt like I needed to bring that up. There's also something else I need to bring up, and this is going to be way off topic, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because I put you guys on hold. You probably didn't know, because sitting in front of me or next to me in my studio, I have a cup of coffee. It's my second cup of the day. It's the only second cup that I have. I can't imagine there being a second other cup. if that makes any sense. I don't know what the hell I meant by that, but I have 2 cups a day, okay? So I'm on my second cup. My second cup I get from a convenience store in Mr. Joe's neighborhood. And let's just say this. I took a sip when I put yours on pause, and it now is 1,000% confirmed. I want everybody to listen to this. Whoever is what is it called? International Delight, the French vanilla, the coffee creamer. Hear me out real quickly. They changed the caps. And what I mean by that is, the twist off. You open it up, they're changed. They're a different shape. Well, the new shape, it just so happens when you unscrew it, I believe when you open it up, rather than have like that aluminum where you got to use your nail and pick and pull and all that stuff, I believe there's just a little pull tab. I don't know, but I believe that's why they made this adjustment. Well, I knew for days I was drinking this damn coffee, never thinking about the cap, none of that. And I kept coming into work and saying, dear God, something's wrong with this coffee. I'm never going back to this place. And it just would happen and happen and happen. And finally I said, you know what? Something's not right. I got to look this up. So I'll save you the trouble of Googling it. Just so you know, the brand new caps with the French vanilla, the coffee tastes absolutely horrific. Disgusting. And I put yours on pause and I took a sip just now because I said to myself, I got to see. I just got to see. And thank God I'm not as crazy as I thought I was when it comes to certain things. Certain things, that is. Because when I looked this up, the very first thing that came up was the cap change and the fact that this taste is completely different now. And I could not put my finger on it. It tasted bad. And what people are saying is the same thing. It almost tastes bad. It tastes burnt. It has a plasticky aftertaste to it. It's horrible, guys. And now I got to drink this damn coffee again today. And I'm not thrilled about it. I'm really not. And you want to know the other thing that bothers me about my convenience store? And it prompted me to look into a few things. And probably this is where our episode is going to gear towards today. I have a funny feeling because it was supposed to be a July report. Did we do a July report? I don't think so. But I couldn't help myself. But with the coffee situation, this same convenience store that I go into, I just want you to know that I am getting a little bit tired of this gentleman who stands outside wearing, without a doubt, more expensive sneakers than I have, okay? Without a doubt. Walks around, looks like a complete, utter, and God forgive me for using this word because I don't like to, bum, because the proper terminology would be homeless man, because there is homelessness out there, which is very, very bothersome to me. I don't like to see that stuff at all. That really upsets me, but it also upsets me that for the most part, every single damn day I have to tell this man the same thing. No, I don't have money, and that's the God's honest truth. I don't, because I use a debit card. And 2, to please leave me alone. I have to get to work. And for those of you who have listened to my podcast, you will know that Mr. Joe has a very, very soft, kind heart when it comes to stuff like that. Back in the day, you will listen to an episode in which, like a complete idiot, Mr. Joe picked up a homeless man, put him in my car and drove him to a train station. And I was very lucky that I was able to produce another episode because the truth of the matter is I should have been dead. Okay, what kind of a complete idiot does that? Picks up, and believe it or not, it was at the same convenience store, but a different location. And I took this man to the train station. So you say to yourself, Mr. Joe, you got a good heart, you got patience, but what's the big problem? The big problem is I don't understand it. I don't get it. I see, I have a homeless man in my neighborhood that kind of used to hang out near a pharmacy. He actually was at the other location also the other day, but I hate to say it, I'm just going to give a quick description. He looks old, he smells, he has no real clothing, he sleeps in a camping bag, he's got, he looks like a homeless man. He looks like a homeless man. And I'm going to expose something else that Mr. Joe has never exposed. So maybe this will help you to understand. For those of you who think you know where I live, you don't, okay? I'll say this. Mr. Joe visited, don't live there, visited a place called New York City 2 times in my life. Let me tell you something, okay? And I'm not trying to insult anybody from New York, I promise you, okay? Because I know plenty of people in New York, And I've been there before on other parts of the upstate area. In the past, I don't remember the places, okay? I just remember there was a few conferences that I had to take a plane to, things of that nature. But I was in New York City twice. Guys, I can't begin to tell you the crap that I saw. Walking through some train station, I'm telling you, people were on the ground, rolling around. There were people playing music and guitars and singing and dancing and naked. I don't even know what to say. I really don't. I don't know what to say. But what I do know is that when you looked at these people, they had this same kind of, I remember renting a car, same kind of look as when I would drive in the street of New York City and some individual would come running over with a spray bottle and paper towels looking to wipe my windows. My point is, in looking at these people, okay, in looking at the person that lives in Mr. Joe's neighborhood, you know, that I just described, more or less like a bum, God forgive me, they're bums. They're homeless people. And they are something to look at. And it doesn't make me happy. It actually saddens me. And yet, do I mess around? Yeah, man. Listen, it happens in Mr. Joe's neighborhood. Every once in a while, you get into an area where you will see, you know, window washers and things like that. And, you know, it's funny because there, unfortunately, sometimes if you're driving on the highway, if you're getting off an exit or something, there will be homeless people there as well. And if I'm driving, which I'm usually not, thankfully for my wife, you know, I play tricks on her. It drives her nuts because I'll pull down the window and I'll talk, and she gets very scared, very scared. So Mr. Joe likes to play that little game, and I'm never mean. I'm never picking on anybody. I'm never undermining anybody. I'm never making fun of the fact that they are homeless. I just find it quite amusing that my wife is petrified of it. But again, one thing you're going to recognize is that Mr. Joe actually does have a very kind heart. And also a very stupid brain, in the sense where I have picked up people and taken them places, people I don't know who the hell they are, and they are homeless, and they could kill me. So we've established that Mr. Joe is not a bad person. I'm not happy when I have quote-unquote homeless people who are dressed better than me, who look better than me, and are asking for money. But what it all came down to was this. It prompted me to look into something that we've never explored before, and that is the idea or the premise behind, are homeless people all mentally ill? Because they all look like it to me. I'm being honest with you. I have never come across one, especially the ones that I saw in New York City. They look like complete, certified 100% wackadoos. I mean, you know, you might as well, next to your sign, you know, I'm homeless, please spare me some change and put it in my cup. You might as well put another posting there that says, I am a wackadoo, so please give me some money. Because that's what they all look like. Now, I want to get one thing perfectly straight. I want to say this. I'm going to say it out loud for those of you who think me, you know, that maybe I'm making fun of homeless people, because by no stretch of the imagination am I making fun of somebody who does not have a home, somebody who we refer to as a bum, even though that's probably not the right way to say it. And I am only bringing this up because I just had an interaction with somebody, and it sparked a very important question that I have in my mind that I don't know if it's ever been answered, and that's whether or not you have to be mentally ill to be homeless. And I know that sounds ridiculous, okay, and we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it because I want to believe that, you know, at least in the United States, anybody who experienced some form of homelessness over the course of their life, obviously it's a serious problem, but I would imagine a large majority of those individuals either have a mental illness or develop some kind of a mental illness. And again, I don't know that answer, but we'll talk about it. I mean, think about this. At least I know my interactions with most homeless people, a lot of times they will translate into some way, shape, or form of them indicating that they want either drugs or alcohol. And guess what, guys? Believe it or not, in the DSM-5, you have alcoholism and substance abuse as mental health disorders. Okay, so that common disorder of alcohol and drug dependency, well, that is, as far as I'm concerned, a clear link between the psychiatric disorder and homelessness. I think about this. And this is why I say, in no way, shape, or form am I making fun of a person who's homeless, because let me tell you guys something. For those of you who have not experienced what it's like to be without your home, okay, forget about being in the streets. I was homeless as far as I'm concerned. And for those of you who have not listened to the thousands of episodes that I produced about my experience with Cymbalta and when I was forced to leave my children's home for a period of 6 months? 6 months, I believe it was. And take place in a outpatient program for a period of 9 months. I was out of my house. And I wasn't allowed back there. And I was absolutely miserable. And I felt homeless because guess what? You know where I ended up. I ended up in the wackiest place that anybody could. I would have been better off homeless or in a mental institution, because I will never forget being under the roof of my mother, being separated from my ex-wife. And I want you guys to envision this, how sick of a woman this is. I remember finally being fed up, because that period of time is finally when I discovered who my mother actually was. Believe it or not, that was the first time I actually was able to acknowledge the fact that my mother was mentally ill. For years and years and years, I would just fight with my ex-wife and say, oh, shut up, too bad, it's my mother, and, we have to respect her. No. Once I got there, okay, and the bad-mouthing and the trashing started of my ex-wife, and the comments, we've been down this road before, but here's really what set me off, because 2 nights in a row, my mother came down, all right, and finally that second night, she came into my room. I was laying in my bed. I actually remember it like it was yesterday. I was reading the Bible, and she came in, and she sat on the bed next to me, and she smelt so bad, like alcohol. And she started mumbling and jumbling, and I don't even remember what she was saying, but guys, I felt so uncomfortable. I don't want to sit here and say like my mom was going to sexually abuse me, but if I'm being honest with you, it was very inappropriate. It was disgusting. I wanted no part of it. It was too close. I was an adult, a man. I'm not, I know I'm your kid, but it was so weird, guys. And one thing led to another. And I guess those feelings of mine translated into anger. And I remember, God, I still remember I used to do eBay, and I had this scale that I would weigh things on. And I still remember throwing it across the room and it breaking, and me just packing my stuff up, hysterically crying, shoving it all into a car, and quite honestly, nor my mother or father gave 2 craps about where I was going. They didn't know where I was going, and nor did I. And what did I do? I slept in my car, and the next day I went to a shelter. Brought all my stuff, had half of my things stolen from me. Okay? I didn't last there very long, as far as I'm concerned. That's a homelessness experience that nobody would want to deal with. Guys, I was sleeping in my car on top of bags and clothing and VCRs, DVD players, and it was insane. And then finally I realized, like, I need a roof over my head. And that roof was a shelter, and that shelter lasted about 1 day. I couldn't do it because everything was stolen from me. There was nothing but drugs and alcohol, and for somebody who was seeking help and trying to get better so that they could return to their family, obviously the shelter was not for me. But again, as far as I'm concerned, I was homeless. And you want to know something? On top of being homeless, guess what else Mr. Joe is? Mentally ill. So again, in looking at some of these people, even thinking about my trip to the city, on 2 different occasions in which I saw these wackadoos doing things that I couldn't even imagine, okay? You got to ask yourself, what is the link between mental health and homelessness. Now, before I even take it one step further, I want to say this. Obviously, because there is a link, or if we're trying to figure out whether or not there's a link, let's make one thing perfectly clear from Mr. Joe's perspective. I am completely under the belief that just because you are homeless does not mean you are mentally ill. Let's be serious now, okay? We know that. I don't think it takes a brain scientist to figure that out, but there is clearly a link between psychiatric disorders and homelessness. The problem is, guys, trying to figure out what the relationship is between the two is going to be extremely complicated, because regardless of whatever that mental health status might be for a person who is homeless, in my opinion, and this doesn't mean it's factual, okay? So, and I don't know how great it sounds when Mr. Joe starts providing opinions based on things that potentially sound as if they could be factual, but I'm going to tell you right now that, in my opinion, people who are homeless are generally going to have a history marked by poverty and some kind of social disadvantage, maybe even considerable poverty in their childhood when they were growing up, and low levels of education. And again, not factual, but I'm going to tell you right now, based on what I've seen, I have to assume that there is a large portion of individuals that are homeless that are going to belong to an ethnic minority. And I could tell you this, although Mr. Joe sits here and says because you're homeless does not mean you have a mental illness, I'm going to tell you right now that homelessness, without a doubt, could be associated with a poorer, if that's a word, poorer? I don't know. I should look that one up. With a poorer mental health outcome. Okay, and it might even trigger certain types of disorders, psychiatric distress, and, probably some anxiety, to say the very least, and probably a lower level of recovery progress, or recovery successfulness, if that's even a statement worth saying. I mean, because think about this, guys. From a mental health, from a homelessness perspective, think about how many other things can go wrong in terms of, forgetting about mental health. You got infectious diseases. You have heart diseases that somebody may not even know about. You have cancers. You know how many times people that are homeless must get hurt? I cannot even imagine. You know how many people that are homeless must eventually at some point decide enough is enough and commit suicide, homicide, okay, beating people up, attacking people, although from what I've ever seen, most of the homeless people that I've ever interacted with have never necessarily appeared to be aggressive to me. But think about this, guys. The unsheltered homeless person has an even greater burden in their life, okay? More so than sheltered homeless people. Now, what I mean by that is simply whether or not you could be homeless and have a roof over your head to some degree, okay? But whether you got a roof over your head or not a roof over your head, that does not mean you're not going to be potentially affected by tobacco use, cigarettes, smoking, destroying your lungs, drinking alcohol, using drugs. And what could I tell you, guys? I don't have a percentage of people that are homeless that are going to be using drugs and alcohol, but I'm going to tell you right now that it would not surprise me if we did. I'll never forget my trip. I'll give you another state that I went to. This'll eliminate another state that Mr. Joe might be from. One time I went to, oh God, now I don't remember, Indiana. I went to Indiana, and I remember being in a bar or a club or something along those lines, and I was older, and I was away on business, and I recall being in a little a little alleyway right before the bar when I was leaving, and some lady came up to me and was begging for money, and she looked like she was a lunatic, an absolute lunatic. And you want to know what Mr. Joe did? I'll tell you what I did. I said, I'll give you money. I said, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to roll up your sleeves. And she looked at me like I was nuts. And the reason why Mr. Joe wanted to roll up the sleeves is I wanted to see if there were any track marks on her arm. Okay? And there were not. And I gave her money. And you know what? Did she go and shoot up? No, because she had no track marks. That doesn't mean she didn't skip around the corner and start smoking a crack pipe. Okay? So, did I add to the problem? I have no idea. I'll tell you this, though. Forgetting about drugs and alcohol and smoking crack pipes, there is without a doubt in my mind a strong association between homelessness and suicide, or even thinking about suicide, or suicide attempts, because it's going to be extremely high in a person that is homeless. There's no doubt about it. It's not, I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably not a great place, probably not a great way to live. So, unfortunately, guys, there's got to be a link. There's got to be a link. And again, I say it only because of what I've seen and some of my interactions with some of the people that I've come in contact with who unfortunately do not have a home. And you got to say to yourself, are there going to be common types of mental illnesses among those people that are experiencing a homelessness? Well, I would imagine. Think about it. Depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, anxiety, substance abuse, already spoke about that. That's going to be the most common type of mental illness in the homeless population. And that connection between homelessness and mental illness, once again, although it's complicated, it's a two-way relationship. An individual's mental illness may lead to behavioral problems, cognitive problems that are going to make it extremely difficult to earn a living, to earn a stable income, carry out those daily activities and ways to even encourage the simple fact that you require stable housing. And like I had said before, you know, there are going to be a great number of individuals with mental illnesses that find themselves homeless primarily as the result of poverty and a lack of low-income housing, rather than that actual mental illness being the cause of the homelessness. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that combination of mental illness, the combination of homelessness, like I had said, is going to lead to other factors: the alcohol, the drug use, the violent crimes, which again reinforces that connection between your overall health and the homelessness of a person. Listen, was I homeless? No. All right. Was it a few days? Yeah. I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible. And that short time being spent homeless, what do you think? It didn't cause psychiatric levels up the wazoo in terms of distress? You don't think that it was making Mr. Joe think, oh God, I got to go get a drink? You don't think that Mr. Joe was about ready to give up on wherever I was in terms of my mental illness? I absolutely was. You got nothing. You got nothing. And it makes you like a lunatic. I'm going to tell you right now. People who are homeless are going to have more encounters with police officers. They're going to have more encounters in the court system. All right? They're going to be in the criminal justice system constantly. And there's just nothing that we could do about it, unfortunately. That's what it comes down to. I mean, it really is. And one of the biggest impacts of homelessness on mental illness comes through its effect on the guardians or the moms or the dads of the families. For instance, moms who experience that postpartum depression during the first year after birth, and we've spoken about postpartum depression, they're going to be at higher risk for being homeless. Okay? I know it sounds nuts, but it's true. The depression itself can actually lead to homelessness, such as, I don't know, being evicted or moving too frequently in, the 2 or 3 years after the postpartum year. So that's really, guys, there's nobody safe. There's nobody safe when it comes to mental illness. But what I do want to say is that without a shadow of a doubt, guys, we understand, we recognize the simple fact that there is a link. There is a link. But in essence, really what it comes down to is people that are homeless do not have those fundamental basic needs. Okay, and if you want to view, if you are mentally ill, a fundamental basic need of seeking psychiatric care, well, they don't have that. They're not going to have that opportunity. They're not going to have access to adequate nutrition and food. They're not going to have access to good water unless, you know, somebody like Mr. Joe goes and throws a Poland Spring at them while they're sitting there. No shelter. They're going to be freezing to death on certain nights. Okay? So, believe it or not, if you ask Mr. Joe, I'm going to say something right now. These little problems, these little issues that we're talking about, they're going to take priority over the psychiatric needs. And they're not going to be addressed until a real hardcore crisis occurs. Until somebody sees the homeless man, you know, ready to hang himself off the bridge. So, having mental health care needs itself may be a barrier to accessing the psychiatric care. That's the effects of the illness, and motivation to make and attend any kind of an appointment that you might have had or tried to make are going to be low. Especially if you're, forget about homeless, you're homeless and depressed or paranoid. You got a history of trauma. Homeless, let me tell you, homeless people are going to have experienced greater trauma. As far as I'm concerned, possible traumatic brain injuries, cognitive impairment. And what does that do? It screws up their overall ability to interact with the healthcare system and get the help that they need. And again, I know I keep mentioning all these medical issues, but, you know, aside from the mental health aspect, diabetes, what's the other one I always hear? Tuberculosis. Okay? They got nowhere to go. They got nobody to take them anywhere. We want to talk about lacking adequate needs. Well, what about transportation? I know that might sound like a luxury, but it's not. Okay? Because guess what? What do you got to do if you're going to get mental health help? Well, there's things like getting blood work, laboratory work. You can't go anywhere and get any tests done. You can't pick up any medications. You can't get to any mental health appointments. Public transportation may not even be an option because, you know, who knows? I don't know. Maybe you don't know how to get there. You got to get on and off. And it's unreliable. Who knows? Some may not even exist. They may tell you to get the hell off the bus. And you might not even be able to pay for where you're going. And speaking about paying, I mean, you know, for persons who are homeless, small expenses can be a huge barrier to getting the mental health care that they need. So what am I saying here? Why am I going through this? I'm going through this because I got to say, you want to talk about a link? Well, here's the link. If unfortunately you are homeless and you are mentally ill, the odds of you getting better are extremely slim because of all of these reasons. You're not going to get the help that you need. And if you are not mentally ill, there's a good chance, guess what, guys, that you are going to become mentally ill, being out there on your own. I can't even imagine what the hell it must be like, guys. For 2 days, I was, scrounging around the earth trying to figure out where to go, and I thought I was going to lose my freaking mind. And I was already nuts. So could you imagine what it must feel like being out there? For those of you who have experienced any kind of homelessness in the past, my heart is with you, man, because it is not an easy thing to deal with. It really is not. And, for the sake of not sounding like a real jerk, I have to say to myself, on the other end of the spectrum, how the hell does a person even get there? how do you end up that screwed up, man? And I'm sorry, I don't mean to say it like that. And I only say it because I've been there, so I'm allowed to say that, okay? And I know I've given 1,000 reasons as to why a person could end up homeless. But, guys, I think about this. You want to talk about being away? Like, there are times where I was so manic and mentally ill that I may not have been homeless, but, man, I ran away from home. And I used to sit places and stare out into the wilderness. And, at times I didn't even know where the hell I was. So what if I couldn't make it back home? Well, guess what? I'd be homeless. So how do we conclude? What do we say? Well, we obviously know that mental health are those conditions, being mentally ill and having certain mental health conditions, are going to be extremely high in homeless populations. And although the homeless individuals that we're speaking about have higher mortality rates related to many different causes, access to the care is much more difficult than that for the general population. I think that goes without saying. And really what it comes down to, guys, is that we need a lot more further research. We need people to advocate. We need people to address the obstacles that homeless individuals encounter in accessing mental health care. Because let's face it, guys, we choose, when we are not homeless, we choose not to get help. When we are homeless, it almost appears like, our choices are very limited in life. And you want to know something, guys? People oftentimes don't make that choice to be homeless. A lot of us often will sometimes say, oh, God, go get a job. You could stand out in the street and you could collect money, but you can't get a job. Guys, we don't know what the hell they're going through in their brains. Think about this. We're not homeless, and sometimes we can't get a job just because we're mentally ill. Throw on top of it mental illness and homelessness. Well, you know what? My opinion has changed for the person that is now standing on the side of the road. How do you like that? Because I'm not going to look at them any longer as if they're lazy and if they are, taking the easy way out. I'm going to say to myself, you know what? There is a very good chance that that person is mentally ill. And that is one of the reasons, if not the sole reason, why this particular individual is in the streets. How do we help them? Research. Because I don't know if handing them money and giving them food and all those things are, really helpful. I think, if anything, as a human being, it makes you feel better. But I don't know if it's doing better for them. So, nevertheless, if you're doing well, I ask that you continue to work as hard as you possibly can. If you love somebody, if you care somebody with a mental illness or a drug addiction, somebody who unfortunately has no home right now, well, continue to support that person the very best way that you know how. And if you're struggling right now, and you know what, I'm not even going to make this joke and say if you're homeless, because if you're homeless, there's probably no way for you to listen to this. Although then again, I've seen homeless people with cell phones. So, I don't mean to joke, but it's the truth, guys. Listen, if you're not doing well, you have to do a few things. You have to see a doctor. You have to fight. You got to battle. You got to listen to the Mr. Joe Bipolar podcast. And most importantly, soldier on. Thank you so much for listening to the Mr. Joe Bipolar podcast. This was a fun episode. We have a lot more to talk about. It's early in the week, guys, which means there's going to be several more episodes of the Mr. Joe Bipolar podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys. And have a great day. Talk to you again real soon.